Welcome to ATP Customs. Well, today is a very special feature on a vehicle that I have owned for a very long time. This is my 93 GMC Suburban, half-ton, 1500. It's got the 350 with a, 4L60 in it. 4L60 happens to be burnt up, but I did a little feature on a bunch of SUVs we were going to build a little while back, and now it is here at the shop. So, I'm going to give you a rundown on my Suburban. Now, my brother gave me this Suburban at a time when I was driving a piece of crap 88 Ford Ranger, two-wheel drive, four-cylinder, and it was on its last legs. It would barely keep running. I was financially not doing well at all. My brother gave me this Suburban. It now has 509,000 kilometers on it. I think 509, 524, something like that. And this Suburban has done so much hauling, it's crazy. I worked 10 years in the motorcycle industry, and I used this Suburban to deliver motorcycles, ATVs, snowmobiles all over BC. Now, that's why it's got so many kilometers on it. And the only thing that ever went wrong with it was I had to replace a water pump on it. I did a MagnaFlow exhaust and an intake on it, but those didn't actually go wrong. And then right at the very end, the transmission lost third and fourth gear. So I did just wreck out another Suburban and finally got my hands on a transmission. This thing has been sitting around for a lot of years. It has a lot of wonderful memories. Met my wife in this Suburban. So after 509,000 kilometers, it's definitely ready for some rebuilding. So we got started on a few things. I had brand new fenders laying around, and I got these off a 3/4 ton Suburban. I had a brand new grille. I had new bumper. That was not cheap either. Definitely needs headlights. We used the stock hood, but it had so many rock chips in it from all the road trips all over the north that we're probably going to go with a different hood. It has a ton of little parking lot dents and stuff in the doors. It was just starting to get some surface rust on the bottom. I have all complete doors from other Suburbans I've wrecked out. I wrecked out a really low kilometer, or low mile, we'll say, Suburban from California. I gotta say miles because it's from California. Can't be kilometers on that one. And we have some fun stuff laying around for this thing. We have a dual shock hoop from ProComp, which only works with a 6-inch lift according to their instructions, which I don't understand why, but I guess we're going to find that out as soon as I order a 6-inch lift. So I can't actually install that and do a review on it, but I do have a ProComp dual shock hoop. So when I do the 6-inch lift, we will do the traction bars as well. And the other thing was, this is the factory color code, and you can really see the difference between the old paint with 500,000+ on it and the new. It's a massive difference. The old paint almost looks brown. The interior, I'm amazed, lasted very well. There's no rips anywhere in the interior. That is why I love this thing. It has the actual manual window rollers, and I never had a problem, thankfully. Every single one of these GMs from the 90s I've had window problems with. So I'm very happy to keep that. I had a Sony CD player, and under this passenger seat is a Sony 10-disc stacker. I don't know if they still work. I did have an 8-inch amplified bazooka tube in this thing, and when you put an 8-inch at the back of that, it doesn't do very well. You had to sit in the very back seat to actually get some form of bass. So, what's the plan? Well, today's the day you get to see my 15-inch Rockford. That is a 15-inch, 1,000-watt Rockford Fosgate Punch series. I found this sub sitting in the back of a 1983 Buick. My dad bought the car for $200, and we dragged it home, popped the trunk, and it had a 1,000-watt Pioneer amp and that 15-inch sub in it, and that was at least 10 years ago. Now, I've run this sub in my wife's Mazda. I ran it in a Jeep. Hey, you know what? That reminds me. I said I never owned a Jeep before. I just remembered I have. I've owned 2 Jeeps. I've owned too many vehicles. That was in my Willys video. So anyways, I ran this in my 99 TJ, and holy crap, does this thing pound. I mean, unbelievable. So I'm very excited to actually try it in this monster cab of a Suburban. Being this is the actual first vehicle that ATP Customs has ever put in its name, was my Suburban. Well, since it's the first vehicle, it has to have the biggest sub, which is the oldest one I have kicking around. And I've been on the fence. The 4L60s I know aren't going to last, and I'm always going to put bigger tires and everything on. So if we're going, it currently has a 3-inch body lift too. So if we're going a 6-inch suspension and a 3-inch body lift, I do not see why we should keep a 4L60 in this. So I am currently trying to put a deal together on a 2002 Chevy with the LS in it. It's got the 4L80, and after driving the Tahoe from Eagle Industries, I think this should be the first vehicle I ever do an LS conversion in. See, now it's got so many miles and kilometers. I wanted to see how far we could go, but I just don't trust the 4L60 with what I'm doing. So this may get an LS conversion. Now, the other thing that this Suburban did was, after being in the motorcycle industry for 10 years, hauling motorcycles, then I left that industry and I used it for construction. And this thing can haul 3/4 of a lift of plywood in the back of it. You got to tilt them sideways, but I can actually haul 3/4 of a lift of plywood. Obviously, they're not 3/4 inch. And so the rear suspension has seen a lot of use and work. So it could probably use a suspension upgrade anyways. Let's pop the hood. So I did do a K&N cold air intake and a MagnaFlow exhaust, and that was definitely worth the money. I would highly recommend it. I think the plan is we're going to actually clean this cold air intake up and put it on my 95 Tahoe, because that thing is almost completely done. Because why not? This thing has so many kilometers. I know the motor's probably tired. The way I got so many kilometers out of this thing was running AMSOIL synthetic. I ran AMSOIL synthetic in this thing, and premium fuel all the time. For years and years and years, that is how I was trying to improve mileage. And it did. I actually ran AMSOIL and everything. If you run the AMSOIL synthetic grease for your wheel bearings, they claim that you'll get 2 miles per gallon increase in fuel economy. So I started running AMSOIL and everything, and it just made this thing last forever. So I highly recommend AMSOIL, clearly. And at the time I was sponsored by them. So then, after I left the construction industry, I used this Suburban to haul vehicles. Now, it hauled hundreds of vehicles. It did really well. So yeah, I'm surprised the transmission lasted that long, being a 4L60. So what we're going to do right now is we're actually going to start getting this thing ready to become part of the ATP fleet. I do have a set of 35-inch tires. I don't even know what they are. Thunderers Track Grip MTs. And those are 20-inch wheels, Akuza wheels. These are just a cheap used wheel that my brother had found online on Kijiji, I think. The tires were just a used set of tires I got from somewhere. So we're going to throw those on so that this can have 35s, get the decals on it right now, get it cleaned up a bit. And it will not run at the moment because the fuel is so old. So I'm going to have to drain the fuel, might actually change the fuel tank as well. And time to get started on the very first ATP vehicle that got me here. This is the truck that got me started. And thanks to my brother, I am where I am. Thanks to my whole family, my wife, everybody. And this awesome Suburban. So let's get on it. All right, just swapping the wheels on this thing. Thought I'd do a quick rundown. This isn't going to be a review because I don't have my 6-inch lift yet. But apparently how this thing works is that goes over top of your bolts right there for your upper control arm. Gives you dual shocks. This one here mounts behind on the frame. Goes on the frame somewhere, and then that piece goes between the dual shocks. So it'll sit like that, kind of. Then you got these things. And these things actually sit right around there And this one bolts underneath it, under the control arm right here, and you have yourself a dual shock setup. And I'm not positive if you get to keep your factory shock. It looks like you might, or I haven't actually looked at the instructions yet, so I don't know if I got to remove that. Probably do. But that is your dual shock setup on this thing. And I clearly have an axle boot. It's spraying grease all over. I guess we're doing an axle on this thing at some point too. And it does need rear brakes and rear brake seals, so got a lot of stuff to do on it. But today we're just having fun getting it deckled up, ready for becoming part of the fleet. Well, would you look at that? My Suburban has 35s with 20s on it. They cleaned up nice too. Used a little Meguiar's wheel cleaner. Did a nice job. And we have decals. It has ATP Customs decals. That's very exciting to me since this Suburban means so much to me. Now, I was originally going to give this Suburban to my friend Terry, who had run into financial problems himself, and he's a family man and needed a set of wheels. He was driving a piece of crap S10 like I was driving my Ranger, but by the time we got this thing to this stage, it seems Terry got offered a nice high-paying job and they gave him a company truck, so he doesn't really need this thing. So we get to work on it. And we have another Suburban coming. It's a black 97 GMC, I believe. So yes, that one is going to go to one of my guys as well. So don't worry, Terry, if you need wheels, we got wheels laying around for you. But that is my Suburban with a 3-inch body lift, sitting next to my Tahoe with a 3-inch body lift. So yes, you can fit 35s on these things with a 3-inch body lift. Doesn't matter whether it's pickup, Suburban, or a Tahoe. It works. If you do have the little plastic cowl, you have to trim it a bit. My Tahoe does not have that, so it had no clearance issues. Other than that, they're the same height, roof to roof. And we have another fleet vehicle with a 15-inch sub. And I'm not actually doing a full review on the sub because I decided we're going to take that Alpine digital amplifier and we're going to try it in the Suburban. This is a perfect vehicle to try it out on and see what it does to that big monster sub. I'll just buy new amps for my Dodge. Not a big deal. And the future plans for this thing is, since it has a 3-inch body lift and 35s, when I look up ProComp's lift, they tell you by putting a 6-inch lift in this thing, you can fit 35s. Well, I already have 35s on it. So my thinking was, if I do a 6-inch suspension lift and a 3-inch body lift, I should be able to fit 40s on this thing. So my 93 Suburban, I think I want 40s on it, because I love 40s on everything. I'll take a little bit of time to get to. But yes, let's try 40s on the Bourbon. Thank you for watching, and I hope you subscribe.